Zlurpcast!
Hey kids, you want to get into radio? You're like, what's that? Well, I say, ask your dad. And your dad's like, nope, you got to ask Pappy that one. Ask your grandpa what radio is. Is it a dying industry? Yeah, definitely. But let's talk about it. I've worked in radio for a long time, and I'm leaving a job now in radio. Will I work there again? I don't know, maybe. Probably on a part-time basis one day, but I want to do so you want to get into radio, and you say, what does it pay? We'll answer that question and many more. I have Biran, I have Xtreme, I have Valdric, and this is, normally we cover games, but other topics. This fun one that might appeal to more people, because I think gamers always think, well, I could do podcast and YouTube, and hey, this all fits. This is, a broadcast professional telling you some tricks of the trade and some things you might want to know. I want to first start this show like a Reddit Ask Me Anything. So I want you guys to come up with some questions, anything. Nothing's off limits. Ask me anything you want. I don't even care if it's money, whatever. And then I'm going to give you a quick timeline of things that might help somebody watching to learn if this is a good career move for them. Or even people that are just, like I encounter this a lot where I'm at like a remote broadcast, like at Hooters or Buffalo Wild Wings, or whatever. And it's like, oh man, he's like, dude, you got it fucking made, man. This guy's living a life right here. Meanwhile, like the guy that's talking to me owns his own like contracting company, is making $300,000 a year. Like, no, you have it made, sir. I'm a neckbeard disguised as a bald fuck. You know what I mean? You're a bald fuck disguised as a bald fuck. So you have it made in the real life world. But everyone thought we had it made. He takes home 6 figures a month. Yeah, action figures. if I'm lucky. That's the meme I posted today online. So if you're thinking about a career in broadcasting, even if I'll even lump TV, I guess, in there too, because it's sort of connected. But you guys have any questions about like what no one talks about but people should know the answer to?
What is more sought after, an AM or an FM station to work at?
To work at?
Mm-hmm.
If the AM station has a following, it should be AM all the way, because it's personality driven. It is your podcast. It is how people get views on podcasts. It's the topic, but personality driven. When you go on FM, you are literally adding such a small part to the listening experience. You're talking between songs and out of songs. No one's tuning in for you. They're tuning in for the show. And the show happens on AM radio. Now, with that said, it's hard to find those gigs because a lot of AM stations are just garbage. They're just like, we run high school sports and it just runs, or we run brokered programming where people buy airtime and run infomercials. And the guy that works there is just making sure they stay on the air. He doesn't do anything. So to be an AM radio host on a station that has a good following and good ratings, that would be the most sought after. Doesn't mean it's going to pay the most. Always, sometimes it will, but that's the most, because you get to be yourself. You get to be a personality. The stations I worked at, I may have more listeners than the AM host, but people want his endorsements, when they pay him to read stuff more than me, because his listeners are listening critically. Mine are in one ear, out the other. So I may have more numbers on paper as the FM DJ that has the ratings. He has the people listening every day for 3 hours a day. And if he puts you on at work, guess what? Now everybody listens.
Whether they want to or not.
Right. But 30 people in the office now listen all day long, and they don't change it because it's at work, which means they listen to the commercials as well. Whereas what happens when I go to commercial, we flip around. So AM all the way, as long as it's a good station. Anyone else?
In the 60s and 70s, the DJs had a lot of power because they could make or break a band.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's all corporate, whatever. Was there like was it a slow progression towards DJs actually losing their authority, their autonomy, or was it a couple of key incidents that kind of changed it?
So there's two timelines. The initial one you speak of, Mike, that's kind of the like plugola payola timeline where DJs get stuff for playing bands. And that was a big deal, like, you know, becoming illegal to do such things. So that was throughout the one-hit wonder era of the 60s became a thing. That's how they got their power and their stroke to do whatever they want. As time went on, those things became illegal, but you still want to be on the show, because throughout the 70s and 80s, the personality, take Chicago, for example, Steve Dahl, Jonathan Brandmeier, Kevin Matthews, are bigger than the bands they're playing. So it was a slow progression from make or breaking the bands of the 60s. But a lot of it was done because you're abusing your FCC given authority. You're supposed to be, you know, it's commercial radio, but you can't get stuff if we don't get stuff, as in the company that owns it. So that's where that came from. They still had power, following the rules, they still had power. But then it morphed from, I'm going to exercise my authority to put a band on the radio, which is how it was. You know, there are bands, by the way, quick side note, that, you know, I talked to George Thorogood last year. So Bad to the Bone, a bunch of hits back in the day. He literally remembers the name of the DJ and the station in Denver that was one of the first to break him. Cleveland, I think, was first for him. And then there was like, you guys played us, and you guys, like, one, I'm not in Denver. Two, you guys, they were around before I was even alive, but you guys played us before you. So that's how much clout these stations had, to your point, Mike. That so much that the rock legends remember the fucking name of the DJ that played their song. Crazy. So as time went on, that sort of started to go away because when large corporations like Clear Channel, and which now is iHeartMedia, I should say, CBS, these large companies started buying up multiple stations. Now it was, well, you know, that's cool that you did what you wanted to, but now I need you to still feel as cool and hope your listeners think you're as cool, but we're going to tell you what to play. And then it started to go away in the 90s. The 90s is kind of where everything changed. Like everything, because, you know, music changes, because now you have bands like grunge movement that don't even give a shit, because part of their coolness was not caring about acting like rock stars. So there's that. There's corporations taking over stations, telling them what to play anyway. You know, that's how, like, when you see bands like when the 80s rock sort of goes away and they're trying to stay relevant, and everyone wants to be, who's the next Nirvana? Who's the next Pearl Jam? And that's like bands like Stone Temple Pilots, like, yeah, they'll do. I like them. They're a great band, but they got airplay because they were supposed to be like it's like if all the radio stations are like, or I should say, record labels are grabbing one. We got ours. We got Pearl Jam. They got Nirvana. We need one. Give us Stone Temple Pilots. Give us Bush. Give us the next one. So the same thing that was happening in radio with buying up stations was happening in the record industry. Everyone trying to assimilate and find the next big thing. It's just, that was the time when all that stuff changed, was in the 90s. And so bands were trying to stay relevant. Radio was trying to stay relevant. So the coolness of working in radio, you didn't have the clout anymore, but the shock jock era was still around. So your Howard Sterns and your clones of him still got to exist. So there was still that level of coolness. So you weren't breaking bands anymore, but you still were, hey, I got strippers in the studio. Let's play a game and, you know, like, have fun with them, and things that were going on that would never go on today. So it was a slow transition, Mike, but radio DJs were still cool even after their power of airplay went away, because of how the stuff you got away with. Now that's all gone. But in the 90s and early 2000s, it was still pretty damn cool. You weren't bigger than the bands anymore. That went away. but it was still pretty cool because the shit you can get away with on the radio. Xtreme?
Yeah, so endorsements on the DJ level, I think, is a fascinating thing. So I know a little bit from having talked with you, but to kind of lead into their talk about it, I think it's a fun subject.
I think it is pretty cool because it makes you feel like we still are relevant, in an era where everything's, playlists are coming down from corporate, what you need to talk about. I mean, just today, for example, at work, which I still have a couple days left as of recording, I'm training somebody on things, telling them about why, and again, I'm coming from a curmudgeon-y point now anyway, because I don't care, but like our social media channels have been all taken over by like selling things, like selling batteries from China and weird shit that's all like scam looking. I said, it doesn't even matter anymore. You can post something you think is cool. It's going to get, someone's already going to unlike our page. So endorsements give us it's like a throwback feeling in radio that what we're doing is still cool and fun and relevant, and getting paid is pretty fun too. It's pretty wild that companies in this day and age still think that, well, if this guy talks about it, I'm going to get more business. And that is, for me, I had Comcast. So talking about how fast their internet is, security, how many channels they have, and free cable, free internet. I got tires from a place down the streets and rims, stuff I would never buy normally, especially that level of tires, because they were free. I've gotten paid from a mortgage company to talk about the refinance. And here's the thing, I end up using them for a refinance. So more often than not, you fall, not victim, but you fall into, well, I'm talking about them, how great they are, I should probably use them too. Our gun range, I talked about their place, their deals and all that. I'm trying to think what else I've done. A lot of like just, small like bars. I've done online colleges. Well, I finished my degree mostly online. So I try where I can when I accept endorsements. I know everyone's going to say this, but I try where I can to be as real as possible.
But if the price is right, the price is right.
The price is right. The
$20 is still $20.
Hey, listen, Drew Carey, it's not your money, dude. Like,
yeah.
But I really do try. I mean, I can honestly say that I haven't used every single company I've endorsed, but I've at least know enough about it to feel comfortable with what I'm saying. Like, for example, that online school. I'm not going to enroll. I don't need to go to school now. Why would I? But I know enough about flexible schedules, online classes, work at your own pace to talk to that. So I didn't feel weird about that at all. And frankly, that helped me get that endorsement because I gave we give like a bio, like, hey, we want to pitch you for this. They give them like a bio of me. It's like a picture and a little blurb. But I usually add, other people don't do this, but I usually add a thing of, here's why I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this. And the way I do it, the way I think about it is, if they're pitching multiple people from different stations I work with, well, I have a leg up because I'm not just a guy going to read copy points off paper. I'm going to tell you everything I know about this. When I got my refinance done, I went from reading copy points from that company to literally telling people on the radio, my mortgage went from this to every month to this every month. My interest rate was this, and now it's this. Normally, we're not supposed to say that because now we're liable, but this is mine. I have paperwork to prove what I did. So my endorsements always do better than everybody else because my shit's real every time. Because people come up to me at events and say, do you really use that? Yeah, I do. And it's never a lie, which makes me feel good too, because I do use the product. Sometimes they give me the product and I have to. Like in the case of the tires, that wasn't a cash endorsement. They gave me tires and rims, and I read commercials up until the value. Now, what sucks is I get taxed on the value, and the value is always way more than they would really sell it for.
Yeah, MSRP and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, if I had cash, it would have been $1,200. it was trade and commercials. It was like $2,000, but whatever. They're still free in a sense. I didn't have to pay tax on it. So I didn't know.
When I worked at the Schaumburg Marriott as a bellman, the restaurant manager comes like, how come you never recommend our restaurant here? I go, because I've never eaten there. He's like, well, come eat. I go, is it free? No, then I'm not going to eat there.
Yeah.
Pizzeria Uno gave me a whole bunch of free pizzas. So I'm recommending them, even though I don't like their pizza.
They're the best, if anyone asks.
I guess as a listener, I was just surprised because I always assumed that, even when you're talking about products, it was a radio station that was going to be getting the money rather than the actual person talking about it.
Okay, so let me clarify. The way to make it work, and this in a weird way, it actually coincides with the point we brought up with Mike earlier on they call it plugola or payola. Those are radio terms, but they basically mean the station has to make money. You are not allowed to use your power for your own gain unless the station is also making money in some way. So Buffalo Wild Wings brings food over. I go on the radio and talk about how good it was. I did not pay for that food. Did they buy commercials on the radio? That's the tricky point. A lot of times they don't. Theoretically, not supposed to do that, but they're a national advertiser. They have in the past bought stuff, and they will again. So that allows them to make it on. But Xtreme, you open up a store down the street.
Grognard Games down the street.
Grognard Games. JP, you get 20% off whenever you come in. Just mention us on the radio. I would get fired for that if somebody found out.
If somebody found out.
Because the station's not profiting from it. It's actually extremely easy to get caught. That's why we're extra cautious of it all because you're on the radio. It's not like we're literally can you just on the side? There's no on the side. It's on the fucking radio. It's mass communications. Even though the listenership goes down every year, it's still radio. You can't hide it. But here's the thing. Everything has a sales rep associated with it. So, grognardgames.com, or Grognard Games wouldn't somebody's going to say, oh, they're on the radio. Who's the rep? Well, and if there is one, then they're going to know if there's an endorsement or not. If they're not, then I'm going to get in trouble because they'll be like, yeah, JP's talking about on the radio and I didn't get anything for it. And I'll get in trouble. If there isn't, then they're going to research it anyway and be like, yeah, how are they even on the radio right now? Because they're not even on our books, period. So it's very easy to get caught in those situations. So Xtreme, for it to work, it would be it always starts with sales. Every time I bring up, hey, everybody, there's a cool place I would love to endorse. I'm already a customer there. Can someone go and talk to them? It never works out. But it's kind of like with the promotion. I got a great idea for a giveaway. We want to get this, want to give away a motorcycle, and every person that comes by is going to get a T-shirt. We're going to get this, whatever. We need a client to cover the cost of this, and this, and this. And sales is like, well, I'm not going to make any money on that. There's no commission on hard costs. No, thank you. So a promotion never works out when it originates from programming, in my opinion, or rarely works out. It works out in a lesser form. It might happen. Well, we're not giving away the motorcycle anymore, but we still got a T-shirt. Same thing with endorsements. They always say, hey, if you guys got an idea, bring it to us. We'll try to make it happen. It never works out. I tried to get what were the ones I tried recently? So I tried to get a landscaping company to do my backyard. It's just dirt right now. I did not want to spend the money to do it myself. I wanted to try to get endorsement. I tried. I asked a bunch of people. Didn't go anywhere because at a certain point, there's a lot of hard costs involved. That landscape company, rocks and sod and trees and whatever. Then their labor. Their labor is where it's flexible. So they'll say, all right, it's $2,000 in hard costs and then $2,000 in labor. We'll eat that, give us that much in commercials. Sales rep's like, well, I'm not making any money because that's going to be 100% trade. JP's going to get a new backyard. He wins. Client wins. They get all the mention, the commercials. Sales rep's like, how do I make money? So now sales rep says, landscape company, I know it's $4,000. That's the deal, but it's going to be a $10,000 package. You need to buy $6,000 in commercials, to brand yourself and get your name out there. And JP is going to do the endorsement. That's the deal. I can't afford 10 grand. Okay, bye-bye. It doesn't go anywhere. The endorsement itself could have happened. If it was like a house account, like it didn't belong to a sales rep, it would have happened. But every single account has to be assigned to a sales rep, and they have to make it worth their while to make money. Now, I would say if you're building relationships in sales, you eat this one and you build it. And now when this landscape company kicks fucking ass and buys 3 more trucks and another location, now they're ready to spend your 10 grand a month in commercials and keep the endorsement going too. Sure, why not? At that point, we'll move it to a cash endorsement because I already got the product, the service. And now they're making even more than ever. It'll never happen because that initial buy-in was, won't make any money. AE won't make any money. No thanks. Meanwhile, no. You both will make money. Big picture. They won't see it. So it won't go anywhere. So I brought up landscaping. I wanted to get, so there's the new dentist that opened up. I wanted to get Invisalign for my bottom teeth. And that would have been $7 grand. Like, I don't want to pay $7 grand. I'll consider paying taxes on $7 grand and talk about it. They didn't have any money to spend. I think they did, but they said they didn't. That's fine. Didn't go anywhere. So they always want us to bring up endorsements because if you're passionate about it, you're going to do an even better job. It never works out. Inevitably never works out. So I just wait. I wait to see what they say. There was a heating and air conditioning company, and they like, do you need an air conditioner? No, I already have in my house. I would like a humidifier though. And so had them out here. Turns out it didn't work out with the way our system, system was. It was whatever. But like, that's what has to happen. We wait. And also, I've also learned over time that due to the jacking up of the value of the endorsement and paying taxes on it, and unless I really, really want the product, if I really, really want, like I have to, I need a backyard. I want the Invisalign. There's something that I really, really want. I'll do it. I basically said at a certain point forward, I'm only doing cash endorsements from this point forward. Like, well, how about if we give you a blah, blah, blah. Like I got an offer. They wanted to give me a Sleep Number bed and they're really expensive and they're really nice.
I'm a big fan.
I would have gotten it. I just, at that point in time, I'm like, I didn't want to take on, it's about
like $5 grand worth of taxes.
Well, they're going to make sure I have the best one on the market. So it's probably
and full MSRP, which you never pay it for a mattress.
Exactly. You never pay $8 grand of taxes. I didn't want to do it. So I'll do a cash endorsement. And they're like, well, how you going to endorsement if you don't have one? You're right. I guess we're done here.
I can pretend I do.
Well, I mean, I of course I would say it, but it's like if they say we don't want you to talk about it unless you actually have it. Well, then I'm going to need maybe a guarantee. If I do a trade endorsement, it's going to then when the trade fills up and your commercials are over, say 6 months, maybe they spread out $8 grand over 6 months. Then it's going to turn over to cash endorsements. They never will agree to that. They want to give you a product and call it a day at the end of it. So
yeah, because then it costs a fraction of that amount.
Of course. So we're always extra careful about it. I mean, there was one girl who quit and she didn't get a final paycheck. They withheld it because she still owed a shit ton of taxes on her, I think her bet. I think that's what it was. I don't remember what she had, but because it was a trade endorsement, it was a lot of money left over. So, and that they still have the bet, they're not giving it back. So yeah, the endorsement thing is really weird. I'm very thankful they exist. I got paid yesterday and I got, I don't remember like net, but gross, it was 1,500 in endorsements for 1 month, which is actually not even like a great month for endorsements. A really good one is like 2,000 a month in endorsements.
But that also has to suck from a personal standpoint of you don't know what you can rely on every paycheck.
Yeah. So endorsements and remote broadcasts. So here's one for you. During my interview for this job, the hiring guy said, well, you have a chance to probably double your income in remote broadcast. That never happened. Like there was no chance of that. I did the math. I would have to do 150 remotes in a year to double my income.
That's like another full-time job.
Right. That would never happen. And not to mention, I am not the only person on the station. I don't do that. I give them to other people too. The way it's worked out, there's three people on the station. I did about 50% of them. the midday guy did 25%, the night guy did 25%. And it's not because I was being greedy. It's really, I kind of split it in thirds, sort of, but clients and salespeople request certain talent to work events. And I'm not saying I'm better, but I'm the afternoon person, which normally the hierarchy in radio is morning shows, top dogs, afternoon is 2, midday is 3, nights are 4, weekenders are last. In the I don't know, the totem pole, whatever you want to call it, but the
got to pay that morning zoo crew.
Yeah, well, we have a syndicated show, Bob and Tom Show, so that's out. I'm now top dog. So now I'm the afternoon guy, is the most requested talent. So I didn't intend to take half of them. It just worked out that way, and nobody complained. They were just happy to get those ones anyway. But so my point is, I did, I don't know, 20 remotes in a year, and they paid $200 a pop. So, you know, I mean, $4,000, good money, but it ain't double my income.
No.
That's insane. So you take the remotes, you take the endorsements, you tack it on. That's how you have a livable salary.
Well, and all the blowjobs you get for free because you're famous.
The blowjobs are nice. You know, the best part is after I come, they give me $100.
Yep.
Now
It's a reverse. It's a reverse mortgage of a blowjob.
It's a cash and trade endorsement. I like to think that my jizz is worth 100. You know, it's got like a Mediterranean kind of, you know, flavor in there.
Tzatziki sauce flavor to it. Like
Yeah.
some cucumber and dill in there, maybe.
No, I got a little tasso inside. He's like stirring it up right now. He's stirring the sauce. Yeah, so that's kind of, you know, without endorsements, Xtreme, I honestly may have quit this job before my contract was up and made up any kind of story to get out of it, because there's no way. Like I had to have the endorsements. There's no. I mean, if let's just use $1,000 as an example a month. So $12,000 a year on top of a shitty salary makes it an okay salary.
Livable, yeah.
Yeah, not good, but okay. But without that, I mean, it's awful. When I started, I didn't get him right away. That's the other thing too.
Because you weren't known, yeah.
I weren't known. I wasn't known. Comcast, I had to audition for. It was my first one. Had to audition for. I did a spec spot, as they're called, which is a commercial that isn't going to go to air, but it's, you know, pretend. Man, as always,
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding. The rep for like corporate Xfinity for the entire West region said, this is one of the best I've ever heard. Because it was me being funny. I think I did a joke about like
Racial slurs?
no, it was cleaner than that. I think my joke was I grabbed the remote, I talked in the remote, I watched, or I said, I love you, man. I watched for Ian Sarah Marshall, and I watched an awesome Kristen Bell movie. All of a sudden, I knew about The Good Place anyway. But I said, it recommended The Good Place to me. Fucking great show. I said, my love affair with Kristen Bell began with some kind of like joke about like using their AI to recommend a show. And no one else, everyone else did, it's the fastest internet. You get a bunch of channels.
500 megabytes and I get 100,000 channels.
Right. So reading the copy points, I did mine a funny story about an actual movie and an actual show, which they love. So I had auditioned for that one, got that one, but then the rest kind of came over time. But it took time to get those. And, you know, Biran, you asked before we recorded about staying on part-time. They asked me to. I'll give you the whole timeline in a second, but like, I said, well, the only way it would make worth my while is to keep the endorsements. Like, if you can't keep the endorsements, you're only going to get paid for what's called voice tracking. That's where you pre-record the show. How long does that take? An hour to do a show? Maybe half hour? Say an hour. Okay. What's your hourly rate? Well, it's not going to be what I should be because it's radio. So it'd be like $15 an hour or something shitty, you know? So is it worth my time to do 2 hours a week to drive to the radio station, which I don't live close to make $30 a week? No, not at all. Like, well, you get to be on the radio. Yeah, don't care.
It's not worth the trouble of another W-2.
Nope, exactly. Don't care. Now, if I got to still somehow do endorsements, they'd be pre-recorded because I'm not the afternoon guy to do them live anymore. You know, instead of saying, hey, it's live at 5, brought to you by blah, 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 and it'd be pre-recorded. And if I had my endorsements, and let's say it was even at its lowest, 1,000 a month. Well, now we're talking. Now it's 1,000 a month times, whatever, $100 for the actual shows, $1,100 a month for a part-time job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, but that's not going to happen. The endorsements go with the show, and the show is afternoons, and that's going to be a new person.
So it's like in UFC when they stopped letting them have endorsements on their shirts and they had to wear that shitty Reebok stuff.
Exactly. That's probably, that's a UFC endorsement, right?
Yeah.
So UFC's getting the money. That would be like me being forced to talk about stuff, which happens. The only difference. So here's the fun loophole. And if you're a savvy advertiser on the radio, you know how to get around it on a payoff fees. Yeah, we're to buy commercials. We are requesting JP's voice. I have to then voice the commercial for free. I don't say who I am, but the listeners know I'm on every day. So they say, we want to know if we get JP. Now I could say no if I wanted to. I also know my wheelhouse. I do all the commercials for tattoo shops, fireworks, sports bars, and motorcycles. Those are my 4. The rest get real radio people. Those 4 get my eventual smoker's voice that I don't even smoke. They're going to get that. But so I know but they can get that.
Is it because you look like someone who ride a motorcycle, but you don't?
Right. I don't have any tattoos. I'm the least rock and roll guy ever on the radio. I don't like people touching me at concerts. I don't want to use the fucking bathroom there.
You don't want to high five for listeners?
I'm going to leave before the encore to beat traffic.
Yep. Let's do it from the parking lot. That's what I do.
I'm the least rock and roll guy, but I'm a really good actor, so I play it well.
You're checking your watch when they're on their 5th song on a concert. You're like,
you know what? They already played Tom Sawyer, you guys. Let's go.
I don't need to hear Spirit of the Radio. Let's go.
Tom Sawyer. They're going to come back with Cygnus 1 through 6. I don't need that. Or whatever that concept album was.
They're going to do one of those long instrumentals with a 15-minute drum solo. We don't need it.
Exactly. I'm just going to go. I hear Tom Sawyer. We're good.
So I have another question, more of a industry question, I guess. You mentioned, listeners going down, and years ago we had similar conversation. You said as long as they keep putting radios in cars, radio still be okay. Which made a lot of sense then, but now you have everyone with Bluetooth listening to stuff on their phone through their car.
Yeah.
Is that causing the listener drop even more?
Yeah. So there's a sliding scale. The listener drop, and then the budgets are decreasing as well because the revenue is decreasing. So advertisers are spending less. We're making less. We're budgeted year after year to spend less, and there's less people listening. It's a terrible fucking trend that's only going to get worse. However, if you buy a car, brand new off a lot right now, radio is still 1 button away. So the choices increase exponentially every year. The ease of use, it's free. I don't really sometimes I make the joke on the radio about, you know what, if you don't like that last song, I'll give you your money back. I do say that sometimes, but I don't think saying radio's free is the best sales pitch anymore. It was for a while. I just don't. People have unlimited data, whatever. I don't think that's the biggest thing is ease of use. It is. I'll ask you guys: when you get into your car, if you're just going to the store down the street, do you listen to the radio, listen to nothing, or plug your phone in, or Bluetooth, or plug in phone?
My Bluetooth auto detects and plays whatever I was last listening to.
Immediately?
Yep.
Okay.
There's probably like a 8-second delay.
Okay. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't. Mine I have to manually set it up. Xtreme?
Mine's the same way. It'll go straight to whatever I was listening to last.
So no matter what you had, when you turn your car on, it already activates Bluetooth to play.
Yep. So sometimes it'll start playing a YouTube thing.
Right.
What the hell is this?
Or porn, Biran?
No, that's not happened, but like some weird ASMR.
Ryan, what's this new band POV you listen to? No, it's supposed to be POD. Boom, here comes the boom. So Xtreme, same thing. Mike, what about you?
This will not surprise you. I listen to the radio.
Yeah. Now, Is it on AM already, old man?
No, it is on MeTV FM though, which is
What is it?
oldies.
Oh,
MeTV
oldie.
FM.
Okay, oldie station.
The only time I listen to the radio, honestly, is when I'm driving in Vanessa's car and she gets out to go to a shop and takes her phone with her.
Right, because then it disconnects. You got nothing.
And then I'm like, what is the Lupin Lounge still? I'm like scanning, like, what's this? Is XRT still a thing?
I do still listen to the radio in the work vans I drive, but that's because I don't have any other choice. It's just an AM FM radio only.
And I want to say I noticed this because I was big into radio when I was going to Harper after high school.
Yeah.
Because I was like 91, 92. I was listening to the Loop. FM talk, basically, which was the first time.
FM 97.9, but also simulcast on AM 1000, right?
Yes. Yep. So I listened to, Brandmeier in the morning and then Kevin Matthews and then Stephen Garrett.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And basically, and I think you brought this up, the downfall of all that stuff and these radio personalities making millions and millions of dollars was when they switched to where they'd actually track what you listen to, not what you say you listen to.
Yeah, great point. Good lead in. And by the way, thank you to all of you for listening to me over the years. Xtreme remembers things I said from years ago. And Biran, you're right. So this is fun. I'm in Colorado Springs, which is market number 87. Started at 90, fun fact, 3 years ago. Now it's jumped 3 spots.
Got 3 spots just because
no change in budget. Everyone still makes the same. It's awesome. Jumped 3 spots, and the cost of living jumped like a lot.
Try to buy some plywood.
We are still a diary market here, which means at random, I guess random, selectively random, who knows, like jury duty, right? People are chosen to fill out a diary that says, what do you listen to? Do you listen to the radio? Yeah. It starts with a phone call. Biran, are you willing to fill out a diary? Yes, I am. We'll send you one. Okay. Then, so there's a funnel, like 10,000 diaries go out. And then or 20,000 people are called, let's say. 10,000 people say, yes, I'll do one. Okay. So they send out 10,000. The people that respond, it's like 5,000. Okay. People that respond accurately, and then it gets broken down into how old they are, male or female, that kind of stuff. That's still the way it is in this market today. That's insane to me because when the PPM, the personal people meter from Nielsen, or Arbitron Nielsen, whatever, when it came out in 2007-ish, it started with the big markets, New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco. And I was told it was going to roll out to all the other markets eventually. Eventually they're all going to get one, but never did. It might have, I take it back. Maybe it did. So the market's in size 30 or 40, but I'm in market 87 right now. That's the size of the market, number 87 on the list. By the way, side note, radio journeymen, not me, but people that love radio, they move from town to town. It's that ladder. That's the ladder they climb. In real life, you climb a corporate ladder to get better jobs. They climb the market size ladder. Well, I'm in Tuscaloosa. I'm hoping to get to blah, blah, blah. And they go to the next one, the next one, the next one. And they do their time to hopefully get to a top, depending on their goals, top 20, top 10, top 5, depending on what they want to be. But so the PPM meters come out in 2008. And in Chicago, little thing you wear, and it picks up the encoding that's in the music and the spots and everything that runs.
So they know what you're listening to. Yeah.
They know what you're listening to, which it has a flaw. My radio's off at the stoplight. Biran, you're blasting whatever, NWA, whatever you listen to normally in the car. Right. You're blasting that, your station. It picks it up on my meter. That could happen. I'm wearing one at work. It picks it up. But whatever. The anomalies of that aside, it's going to pick up what you have in the car. 95% of the time. Right. That's real. And that's great. That's as close to real life as you can. It is real life. It's, the only drawback besides the weird things I mentioned is there aren't enough meters to give a good size, a sample size. If I'm sure it's increased over the years, I'm sure it has to have, but when it first started, I don't know, 2,000 meters get sent out to the greater Chicagoland region, which is 10 million people. I don't want to do the math. Anyone watching at home could do the math. But if 2,000 meters go out, let's say they're all actually worn and used, 2,000 representing 10 million. I don't know what it comes to, but if you're chosen, Biran, you are deciding the fate of like 50,000 people or whatever. Well, I don't know what the math is, but whatever it is. Like that's very powerful. Now the diaries have that power too, but if you're like bragging about this is real life, we're literally picking up what you listen to because the sample size is so small. It's still like your big swings, like a game of Frost Grade for any gaming fans out there. Those swings all over the place, like it's crazy. I mean, if the meters go out and they're like a bunch of younger people and older people, they have weighting, it's called, where it basically weights things differently. You know, if only for I don't know, for the luck of the draw, if only 20 women in these 6 zip codes over the age of 55 get them, well, those 20 are worth a lot more than the 100 that were sent to this other demographic of women, you know. So you already have a small sample size, and then it shrinks even further within each demographic based on how many others in that group are being evaluated. So your point, Biran, was you and I growing up listening to that, like my dad listened to Stephen Gary. That's, you know, it's where I learned all my insults to bring to school the next day was from Stephen Gary. Over the years, they were the kings and Jonny B. And that's why I didn't go by Jonny P. Fun fact in radio, I switched to JP. That's why it was going to be Jonny P. I didn't want people to think I was trying to be Jonny B. You know. Mm-hmm. Then later on, I met like 1,000 people named JP. I'm like, that's fucking dumb. But anyway, all those people that were legends in the country. Yes, Chicago, but like
Chicago used to be a much bigger radio market than it is.
Howard Stern, legend, listened to Steve Dahl tapes in the late 70s, early 80s. He did. Like
Disco Demolition, he was huge.
Disco Demolition. Oh, talk about DJs being bigger than the bands. He's literally blowing up fucking records.
He caused the end of disco.
I'm going to blow up these disco albums. I'm gonna blow them up. Like you might as well lit the fucking bands on fire themselves in Comiskey Park that day. So PPM meters come out, going from diary market. Steve Dahl, every day, every day, all day. They draw a line down. It's like me when I did a TV 1 year ago. I'm like, yep, Seinfeld reruns on TBS all day. I want that on forever. So clearly the diary is
well, it's an interesting, but it basically uncovers stated preference versus actual preference.
Right. So quick side note before I get into the downfall of them, but that's why when you hear people in radio say their call letters and the station name or branding, call letters, their own name, all that shit all the time is to cement it in the brain. So if you get sent a diary, here's an example. You have the loop. Well, not anymore. In Chicago, you had the loop, you have the drive, and in some areas you have the river, all essentially playing the same songs. Mike, you get sent a diary, and bad example because you are an active listener, you know the names of everybody, but the average radio listener doesn't know shit as much as we think they do.
But don't put down, Eric and Kathy.
Right. Not shit about the news. I mean shit about us. Again, these are reality checks, by the way, that I have because I've worked radio, then not radio, then radio, then not radio. I've gone to real world. People that only work in radio, they are still in the clouds. They still think that by telling people we're live, we're local, like that means anything.
Nope.
Like this is how little that means, by the way, to anyone watching. Like when you say we're live and local, we're not syndicated like Bob and Tom. Okay, if I did a TV show on weeknights at 10:30 up against Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, nobody's fucking watching me.
Well, I'd watch that instead of Fallon or Kimmel.
Thank you, but I'm still going to be as liberal as them too. So is that going to hurt you?
No. Yeah, but I know you at least. So.
All right, sure. You're going to watch me, and my family will watch me, and that's it. Nobody, but I'm local. I'm talking about Lou Malnati's, you guys. Who gives a fuck?
Is there anything more condescending than on WGN Morning News when a celebrity goes, "Yes, I will have some Lou Malnati's deep dish pizza while I'm..."
No.
Oh my God.
When they say it wrong is even better. Yeah, sorry I was late, guys. I stopped at Portillo's on the way over.
I had a hot dog.
I had a hot dog. I'm like, wait, you can't say hot dog now? What the fuck? I get you couldn't say Portillo's, but now you can't even say the word hot. I had a hot dog at Portillo's. But anyway, nobody cares about that. So we brag about those things. We're low. The only advantage, and there is one, and that's clients on the radio, advertisers like that. I can bring JP out for a remote and people, whereas, Bob and Tom aren't going to do a remote, or I can have a local guy do a thing. I could walk in the studio and talk to him on the radio because I'm paying for. So there is that. And clients like, but overall doesn't really matter. Entertainment is entertainment. That's all. It's just, that's why syndicated shows do so well, because they're polished as fuck. They have a budget, and then, they can beat out local shows, So PPM meters come out, replace the diaries in the Arbitron rankers, as they're called. All of a sudden, oh, Steve Dahl, man, no one's listening anymore. That's, it's probably a glitch or something. It's technology. I don't know. A couple months go on. Turns out as many people that say they love Steve Dahl didn't love him as much. Now, with that said, to Steve Dahl's credit, that dude capitalized on all of it. He was, I would say, pretty visionary. For as visionary as he was in radio in the late 70s, early 80s, for new media, he was as well. Because once he realized sort of the writing on the wall there, well, one, he had a giant contract. So I'm going to sit at home until the rest of my contract's paid out. Smart. While I'm doing so, I'm going to tweak my empire. Not build. I've already built it. I'm going to tweak my empire to work for me. So he then built he waited till the contract was up, created the Steve Dahl, I'm getting the terms wrong, but Steve Dahl Podcast Network. Now I'm going to hire my old producer and another dude over there, 3-man team. I'm going to take my audience with me. I'm going to charge, I think he charged $5 a month. I don't know if it's still a thing anymore, by the way, but in the end of, 08, 09 though, I'm going to charge $5 a month for my podcast subscription. New kick-ass show every day. I'm going to swear, say whatever. It's going to be great. And then I'm also going to sell advertisers and do live reads and endorsements and commercials and all that. And you get my podcast every day.
And he gets all the endorsement money because it's his own thing.
It all. He can pay a guy. He can pay him well. He can pay a producer $70,000 a year, more than they'll ever make in real radio, ever. He'll pay them that, and he'll sit on all the money and be great and build his empire even further.
Yeah,
so he's doing great. He was very smart about it. Adam Carolla is another one. Adam Carolla, when Howard Stern left to go to Sirius, Adam Carolla took over. So Howard's in New York. They broadcast him in LA as well. Adam Carolla took over, his show in LA, and did that. And then eventually he got let go or whatever. It ends, builds his podcast empire. So those always work out for those people. It wouldn't work out for me because I'm nobody, but those people it always works out for. So while those guys are casualties of the rating system, they're okay. Now, smaller market, some legendary guy there, like, well, I've been here 40 years. Uncle Jim on the radio, but some smaller market, yeah, he probably is not doing well anymore. Because
I remember after kind of WLUP went away, I started listening to The Score or AM 1000 when it became sports.
Yes, yeah.
And they had McNeil, Yurko, and Harry, and those guys were making serious bank. But now isn't it all like ESPN syndicated bullshit now?
Well, I don't know if they are there. So you're saying, I mean,
even local sports, it seemed like a lot of the money dried up from there as well.
Well, the score still has local personalities, right?
Right, but it's I remember for a while there was McNeil was making bank.
Oh, you're saying even if they're local names, they're not doing what they were?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, it's not, that's just the sign of the times too. So here's a real life story, and I won't, I won't say the numbers, but I'll just use sort of the comparison. So Mike, when I started at the River, I was an intern there when I wanted to get into radio. So Scott McKay just joined the station. He was Mo Driver on the Loop, working for Kevin Matthews.
Yeah.
He used to fart on command. That was his thing. I'm the farter because it's a shock jock show. And then he had his own show and blah, blah, blah. And he made really good money. He's now at the River telling me these stories about downtown Chicago. And then I hear what he makes there. And I make a rather ignorant comment that I apologized for to him. But I said, like, well, if you were here, why would you do this? Dude, you were here. He's like, this is what I do for a living. So whether it's here or here, this is what I do. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he found a way to make it work. He didn't live the same lifestyle anymore. Maybe you don't live in Highland Park anymore. Now you live in Aurora or whatever. I don't even, but like, that's fine. But to those guys, that's their livelihood and that's what they do. I'm thankful that I always had other careers, both, from marketing to digital to, in radio, and, then eventually finish my degree. Like I always had other stuff. I'm very thankful of that because it let me always be in a somewhat of a position of power of where my career went. But most radio people don't have that. So while they're living the high life, that's fucking awesome. Eventually though, with the old adage is, I used to tell my class when I used to teach at the broadcast school, always be nice to everybody because you see the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. And it's true. So as an intern, I was the nicest guy ever. And then once I actually had, a little bit of clout, I was the same guy the whole time. I'm the guy at the event. I'm taking the speakers and moving them from the truck to the stage, not the intern, because I'm getting paid the most money that day. And I'm going to make sure I work harder than the part-time guys and the interns. And they're like, well, JP, no one else does that. I know, like, because I was in your shoes and I'm getting the most money, so I'm going to work the hardest. That's just me though. So I always live by that. But that's how it is. Those guys that were living the good life, if they still want to work in radio later on, they may still be hanging in there. It may not be here. It might be here, but it might also be here.
Well, there was the one guy, he was on WGN, and I know Steve Dahl used to constantly make fun of him, like Jim. I know it's not Jim Shorts because that was Kevin Matthews.
Well,
Jimmy
no
Schwartz.
spoilers. Are you saying Jim Shorts?
Yeah.
Was a voice done by Kevin Matthews?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Gotta keep the appearance.
Was it Eddie Schwartz?
Eddie Schwartz, yes.
Yeah.
So Eddie Schwartz was on WGN, and they would just mercilessly make fun of him because he was just like a weather nerd and stuff like this.
He was a big guy. They make fun of
he was a big fat guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he actually was on the Loop for a little while, and then I think Steve Dahl took pity on him, and then Eddie Schwartz, he was basically penniless and dying of his various diseases. And I think Steve Dahl helped pay a lot of his medical expenses. Well, that's like a guy who was, well, it wasn't here, but he was at WGN, and that's serious business back then.
It is. I mean,
and he died penniless.
If you were on those stations, I mean, I think Steve Dahl had like $1 million contract at once. I mean, Eric, from Eric and Kathy fame was over $1 million.
Well, and we knew when Kathy tried to exert her authority, and you're like, nope, you're gone.
You realize kind of, where you fall and everything. But
yeah,
it's just wild. Like, obviously smarter people in radio are better with their money, obviously. But even on a lesser extent, a smaller market extent, it's unfortunately nowadays it lends itself to like gig-based jobs as opposed to like steady income. Like for example, in the same place I work, there's the top 40, whatever, current music station. They're looking for a guy to do, and it's listed on the website. It's a guy or girl, a person to do 7 hours a week on the air from 7 to midnight or whatever. So notice, by the way, it's a 7 to midnight show, 5 hours, but you're going to be voice tracked. So you're paid for 1 hour a day. So 1 hour a day times 7 for minimum wage, which in Colorado is $12.32 an hour. They're asking for somebody with over a year full-time radio experience. So the job you're hiring for is barely part-time. it's 7 hours a week times 12. I did the math. It's like a little over $4,000 a year. So you're hiring and paying tiny part-time, side hustle, do it for the love, but you want somebody who's got full-time radio experience. That's the norm now, and it's terrible. So that's basically doing what we just said. I want the guy who was somebody, but I'm never going to make him somebody again.
But who wants to still be in the game.
In the game, exactly. And that's awful.
Like you could do that, like the pay is shit, but like I always think of XM Radio, that the horrible woman Madison.
Yeah.
She probably works 40 hours a day, but doing little hour snippets for every single station on that.
She's on a bunch of stations, and XM, it pays pretty well because it's based out of New York. But they get their use out of her. Put it that way. They get their money.
She's not the slacker, that's for sure.
But her and all those people on there.
All the former VJs from TV that are
a lot of the VJs. A lot of them were also, if you're like an old, like, I mean, I know you listen to Steve Gary, those guys, but like if you remember like the old Q101 days in the 90s, alternative music, a lot of those guys are actually as serious. Some of them, New York and LA, all the major market DJs from back in the day are now on those XM stations. But
who was it? Is it Terry Hemrick was on XRT? She did all the Beatles stuff. She finally retired, I think.
Probably, yeah.
I think she was here on XRT for 500 years, and she stayed there the entire time.
XRT was, every big market has that one station that gets a free pass.
They're the that guy radio station.
You get a free pass. Like we're gonna play,
It's like PB. They might as well be NPR at that point.
Pretty much. NPR for music. We're gonna play some Steely Dan. We're gonna play Smashing Pumpkins. Like there's all over the place. It's they get a pass. But the people that still want to be in the game either do it for the love, but more often than not, this is my skill. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. So if you made 350,000 and now you make 35,000, like you're somehow in your head have to justify a 90% pay cut to do what you do. And that's it. That's why I apologized to Scott, at the time, Mike, because it was an ignorant comment on my part. I'm like, dude, you were this. Why are you this? Because this is what I do. This is the job that's open right now. This is what I took. This is the job. In real life, non-radio, we don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to us because you don't, like, just because you work for Microsoft and you're this title doesn't mean that title at this other job is going to pay that much less. This title's the fucking same. It doesn't matter. That doesn't happen in real life, but it happens in radio. I guess is the point. Any other questions?
Just a quick one. What Chicago radio? What level is it?
What number?
Yeah, what number?
3.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, 3. It's been at 3 forever. Now, past 3, so New York, LA, Chicago. Past 3 has actually had some movement. I don't remember offhand, but it's San Francisco, Dallas, Philly. Like they're kind of like they've had some movement in there, but the people that work in radio and want to jump levels, if they get to Chicago, they have no problem like sticking it out forever. Somebody could correct me if they're a radio person watching this, but I don't think it's like I got a squeaking in Chicago. I can't wait to get to LA. It's like that's not happening because you're already like, it would be like if there were 5 different NFLs. You know what I mean? Like there are smaller football leagues and you don't want to be in them. But if there were 5 NFLs and you're in one of them, you're good.
I'm kind of surprised though, because like Chicago is we're 4th or 5th now in population.
Yeah, we're
behind Houston and someone else now.
Do you mean the city of Chicago?
Yes.
So it's market size.
Oh, so it'd be all of and the collar counties.
Yeah, okay. Chicago market is not. What's the population? 2.5 million roughly.
Yeah. Goes down every day.
It's not that. The population.
It's Cook County, Lake County, DePage.
If you look up Chicago, if you Google Chicago Radio Metro, it's going to be 10 million people.
Oh, because because LA is always like they all count out. Like if you just counted downtown LA, it's much smaller than Chicago.
Right.
If you counted all of Cook County, we'd be
Downtown
bigger.
LA is barely a downtown.
Yeah, it looks like Schaumburg.
Right, it's a giant Schaumburg.
Yeah.
So that's how the market sizes work. So, Colorado Springs is increasing. We only have a couple suburbs. The actual town is increasing a lot. Denver is big, but it's Denver. And then all the suburbs, all the Schaumburgs of Denver are part of that number. So that's where you get, so it doesn't matter about Chicago. It's, it's Schaumburg's 80, Naperville's 100, Aurora's 100. You take those big heavy hitting suburbs and they're jacking that number way up, So let me go back to this timeline here for anyone watching that wants to know. Here's a fun little radio, like just time capsule, if you will. In 2018, I was working for an awesome, because I'm going to be working there now, if anyone's watching, an awesome marketing agency called Spectrum Communications and Consulting. That is just, they're next level as far as what they do. I used to work in radio. I also used to work still in digital marketing. And I've gone around to different careers. And that's just kept it fresh for me anyway. My wife and I wanted to move west. We thought it'd be cool anyway, with my wife, has certain doctors, she has a medical condition that we wanted to seek things that we didn't find in Illinois. That's part of it. But we wanted, thought it'd be cool to move out west. We don't have any kids, get away with that. I wanted to get back into radio, give it the old college try one more time. I really enjoyed the job I was at. I did. It's just, I always kind of wanted to do that one more time, and to me, it's like a baseball analogy will be, and I'm gonna squeeze in a lot of analogies in the next 10 minutes, but get that Tommy John surgery as a pitcher. How's he gonna be afterwards? We don't know. That was me. So I'll go in for the Tommy John analogy, and we'll see if I still have it or not. Yeah, it'd be great. So I take a job in Colorado Springs, doing afternoons and promotions director of KKFM. It's a heritage classic rock station. Been here for 40 years. It's like, their loop, basically. Kind of a big deal. Replacing a guy on the air that's like the legendary morning guy that then moved to afternoon. So huge shoes to fill. In fact, people came up to me when I started. Oh, you're gonna fill Mark Stevens' shoes. I'm like, I'm not. Got my own. I'm gonna work on filling these first, and we'll see how it goes. I kind of always go at it with a jokey kind of answer, but the pay that was offered to me, tremendous pay cut. They say it will be a 2-year contract with an option for a 3rd year. That it's not my option, it's their option. I've already by agreeing to this contract, I have already agreed to the 3rd year if they choose to do the 3rd year. That makes sense. So the first year salary is $35,000 a year. I'm worth more than that. I've made well over that at jobs. I've made over that at radio jobs, even. Real world, yes, but radio jobs too.
Where will that radio station be in 5 years, do you think?
So
playing infomercials?
It will still be around. All of the stations probably still be around. There will probably be, good question. Probably national advertisers, no local talent, no local salespeople, just basically like transmitters to play stuff programmed by somebody 1,000 miles away.
Well, because the frequency has value.
Frequency has value and still going to be in some cars in 5 years. Here's the thing, to Xtreme's point at the beginning of this show, the moment a brand new car does not have an FM antenna in it and internet radio is a click away, that is the death knell.
I wonder if Teslas have that, because they're so connected via always on Wi-Fi. I wonder if they have because I have to look for because now the antennas are just those little shark fins. So it's harder.
Do you think they'll always have the other new stuff, but will they always have an FM AM thrown in there?
Yeah.
The moment that happens, They're done.
I got to get my crop report.
Right. You need all that.
I got to know where pork bellies are.
Yeah. So anyway, radio, what does it pay? Not enough. Do it at your own risk. Ideally, not at all. No, don't go into print because that's even deader. Don't go into TV because nobody watches it. Nobody cares. Here's the thing. If you're watching, find out what makes you uniquely qualified to do a thing. Do videos about it. Do podcasts about it. Stick with it. Do regular content. Don't give up. And then you're got a thing. And if that fails, then it's the side hustle and you get a job working for the man. And you keep doing the side hustle at the same time. That's it. That's the show. Bye, radio. You've been a whore. Thank you.